Hey boys, back with you finally. I think it's been the quietest Commanders off season in years and years.
Well,
isn't that beautiful?
Stuff,
isn't that
right?
great? Isn't it great that we're not talking about congressional hearings and investigations and the misdeeds of the owner and
or finding a quarterback,
always looking for a quarterback? I mean, it's just a nice, peaceful off season. That's all it is. Picking 29th in the upcoming draft. I love it.
Well, yeah, covering. Can I do a cover 2 versus a trip receiver thing? Yeah, I get a little bored with that after 50 years. But yeah, it's been nice not to have a scandal every 5 minutes. But you got to make the phones ring, right? So whatever.
Yeah. So all right. So I know that having talked to you about this new stadium deal through the years, and you've been covering this from the beginning. And I maybe 7, 8, 9 years ago, I remember you always sort of kind of maintained, at least I thought, that you kind of were pretty consistent with it's just going to end up back at its current location in Landover with just a building right next to it, something like that. Now with all of the hurdles seemingly removed and supposedly here in the red zone area, are you still convinced that it's going to be back in Maryland, or are you finally convinced that no, this is going to actually happen?
Well, right now nothing is signed, and there's many hurdles to go. But let me just say this: this is a win-win deal for everybody if they pull this off.
Okay.
Because DC's not going to have to put in nearly the money they would, and a lot of it comes in ticket taxes later.
Mm-hmm.
And for Harris, he gets the whole complex to manage. And there's going to be other things besides sports, but he gets a whole piece of it. Now, Harris had a big, 76ers complex in the middle of Philadelphia fall apart.
Mm-hmm.
So these things fall apart all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And there are many groups out there this morning figuring out how to disrupt it. So I'd like to see it. I think it's the best place for it. And if they pull off this vision, it's a great deal. But I'll stay skeptical until I see dirt move.
What's the biggest blockade right now?
Right now, probably the city council, I think, will be the biggest blockade. There's a number of people. They're just beating this drum about affordable housing. They just beat it as loud as they can. It's going to cost some favors to make this all happen. That's what happened with Nats Park. Everybody wanted Nats Park in the city. Everybody. But the council was a 7-6 vote that Mayor Barry had to strangle his way through it. And everybody had to get something for it. And that's going to happen again here, no doubt. So it's okay to be positive, and I think it's more likely today that it'll be an RFK. But it's not just a simple sign the contract and we're done.
Right.
Going back to Nationals Park, can you remind people what this area was like before they started building and what it's now become?
When I used to drive up South Capitol Street, I used to think, what a disgrace this place looks. The gateway you can see the U.S. Capitol, and all I'm driving through is hell. It was awful. It was a commercial zone. It was a red light district. Everything was down bad. Today, look at it. It's a beautiful area. It's still growing, and that's what sports complexes do. Before they built Verizon Center, Arena, Cap One, whatever it's called, there were chickens hanging in the windows and surface parking lots everywhere around the arena. And they did several $1 billion in development since then. So sports complexes are good for the economy and neighborhoods. It's going to cost about, in real money, about what the city just gave Leonsis to keep his arena downtown. So the city is going to invest like $1 billion in sports teams over this. And yet it's worth it. It's been proven to be worth it. But there's going to be people, and I understand, who say, hey, we're getting laid off. They're closing the libraries. They're doing all these things because Congress screwed the city all of a sudden. And now we're going to give this money to these people. It's a hard sell, but it can be done. And I think it looks like a pretty solid project.
Rick, what's your best guess as to what surface parking is going to look like at the new RFK site? How much will people have to rely on public transportation to get down to games?
I'm pretty sure Josh Harris is going to get a spot. Outside of that,
who knows?
What about Mitch? Mitch Rails too?
Magic. Mitch might have to go back to that bus he used to take. There's not going to be much, and there's going to be a lot of parking garages because they're going to be also used for other things. St. Louis did this really well with a downtown arena using garages. I remember Cook used to call them motor car bad houses. He did not want them. But with this, you're going to have other things around that will use those every day of the week. So that's and you can't have tailgating inside a parking garage. Fire, blow the place up. So you're not going to see much. It's going to be a lot more mass transit. And that's really, we're trying to think about not today, but what's going to be 2030 to 2040 to 2050 to 2060. And that's less transportation, more mass transportation. And, listen, if you want the team back in the city and you got to, buy a hot dog instead of cooking one, seems like a fair deal.
I don't know. It depends on your opinion, I guess.
Well, I'm not getting blotted in the parking lot, so that's not my thing.
Yeah.
I mean, we're taking calls on it, Rick, and I don't know. It's 50-50 right now, right?
On the calls. Now, our poll, I think, is like 80,
the
20.
poll is big. Yeah.
I think from a sentimental standpoint, people love the idea, and I do too. Of course, it should be in the city. It's great, but it's not going to be the same deal. It's not going to be the old, RFK rocking and shaking. I mean, hell, it might even be a dome, right, Rick?
Right. Yeah, it's gonna have to be covered because you're going to need events there all the time to pay for a $3.5 billion facility.
Right.
If I could give Josh Harris one piece of advice about the new stadium, I would say find a way with hydraulics to make those stands bounce. People love that thing.
Do any stadiums do that?
I haven't seen one, but I mean, in the old RFK, it's because they were baseball bleachers, and that's why they were They weren't fixed; they were pulled in and out.
Yeah.
I would tell them to do it. People will pay extra for that. Just put in one section in mid-season or whatever, midfield, and do that. And I think people would love it, and that would give you a little bit of it. But no, it's not going back to the old days because this ain't the '60s and '70s anymore.
Yeah.
And the winning, we'll see. I mean, we had a good 20-year run there of winning. And so I think people, and you're going to have new people in there. The old people at RFK are gone. They're either dead, retired, or sitting on the couch watching, mostly. So, you're coming back after 34 years. It'll be a different group. So it's not going to be the same thing. You can't go home again. But I still think transportation-wise, it's a good central location.
Do you think the 2030 target is realistic?
If they can get a deal signed by the end of this year, yeah. I mean, you need about a year to get all these things in line. You need about 3 years to build it. I know there are going to be court challenges and things like that are going to hold this up. So, because there always are, and we're a city of lawyers. But I think they can do it.
When they say 180-acre site, is that basically the exact same footprint as the old site, or is it some expanded areas?
It's actually a little less on there. And it's not going to be 180 acres of building and parking and all that stuff. Like, we didn't talk about wetlands and stuff by the river back in 1960. They do now, so there's like 30, 40 acres getting carved out and no one can touch on that. What are they going to do at the soccer fields, for that? They're going to keep them next door? I don't know. But there's going to be different buildings coming in. It could be a really nice complex. It's kind of disappointing that the Armory is going to be staying where it is. This big old 1960 behemoth. They can't figure out a way to move that. And that would really help because that's a gateway right next to the stadium.
Did they say that? Did they say that the Armory is staying?
Yeah, what I've seen, the Armory is staying.
That is weird.
Hey, Rick, how much is Maryland now scrambling in the wake of this news? How much is Westmore and Prince George's County, where FedEx currently sits?
Westmore has been at Redskins or Commanders practices and stuff every year as much as Major Tutty. I think he might be Major Tutty. He's desperately trying to do this. But Maryland's blown through its reserves, man. The governor's, I'm a Marylander. So as a Marylander, a taxpayer, I am all for D.C., getting this team. But Maryland's governor has just blown through deficits, and I don't know how they can really come up with the money either, because at least D.C. can justify the whole complex can make money, just like the Nats and just like the Wiz. But you can't do that out in Maryland. And I know they want to develop land over and all that, but that land doesn't flow the same, and it's a suburban location. So you can't quite make the economic gains that way, which is my vision. So, I mean, Maryland's invested in a lot of things. between the Ravens and the Orioles. The horse racing complex now is owned by the state of Maryland. They're going to tear down Laurel Park, just run at Pimlico. State's into that now. I just don't see it. It's not going to happen at Oxon Cove like they talked about for a long time. It almost went there, but the MGM stands alone, I guess. So I don't see Maryland. Maryland could do it, but it's not an easy thing for them either.
So how does that work? Harris currently owns the stadium, but the state of Maryland owns all the land around it right now with all the parking?
No, Harris.
Who owns the stadium?
Yeah, I know what they did. Cook signed this lease for the land, and the land in 2027 goes over to PG County.
Okay.
And PG County, of course, would say, "Hey, we still want you around." And some things revert to the county, but some of the land is still the team's.
Okay.
So where they're going to, because the county is very worried that the team's going to say, "Okay, we're gone. Here's the keys. See ya," and leave this big behemoth there. But the thought always was, whenever the stadium isn't here, they've already done the infrastructure for the area, and they can figure out a new way to do things. So it was kind of, I'm surprised Cook did that, but I guess he just wanted to get it done, and he was, near death too, so he was desperate to make a deal. I don't see, he gave up things I would have never expected.
Rick, so you say that the site is actually smaller, right? Because of the wetlands and everything and the area they have to carve out. Where does that leave? Like where does that leave, restaurants around it, businesses around it, access in and out? Because they're going to have to add something there. I don't know, bridges or tunnel. I don't know what they're going to do to make it a little easier for those that do drive in to get in and out. They'll probably have to expand the metro access on some level, I would think. What's available?
Well, there's a second metro line that can come in through there. They've never built the platform as such, but I've done it. If you look straight ahead at RFK, it would be over on the left.
Okay.
And so they have a second line. The stadium would stay in the same footprint, which means you don't have to change the bridges behind it.
Okay.
How much is that going to cost? Well, I forget what else you said.
But it's about like restaurants and businesses.
Yeah. So you look at Nats Park. Look what's around it. You've got commercial and residential and all that. And I think the same vision kind of comes there. It won't be one story McDonald's next to them. It's going to be a behemoth and everything mixed in together. St. Louis is the blueprint, I think, for what they want to do, because their stadium's not far from the Arch and all that. And you can, it's just like a city otherwise around it. And, there's the arena in the middle of all
which is very cool, by the way. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, and they have a metro line goes right through it and all that. So they had a good mixed residential. Why that didn't work out there, I don't know. But St. Louis, to me, would be a really good blueprint to look at.
But like I said earlier, if you went back to before the Nats, opened up here, and then you even went to the first year of the Nationals playing in the stadium, to the 5th year, to the 10th year, the whole area is transformed, and that could happen.
But that was the plan. That was the plan from day one. It just was delayed. That was supposed to happen. It wasn't like, oh, wow, this is a great spot. I'll put a business there. That was the plan for the beginning, JP.
Yeah, I mean, look at what between the Nat Stadium and the Arena Stadium, Audi Field, that was just construction zones, for instance, plants, things like that. Now it's all these nice big buildings going through that way, too. People don't always see it. They see the other part, Navy Yard. I mean, it really did have a wide swath. I mean, you can't even see the stadium when you're coming over anymore. From the,
Are they going to take away homes that are around that area? Are some of those going to be lost?
I haven't heard that at all.
Okay.
I mean, they may sell because they'll be worth a lot more land-wise.
Yep, that's
So
true.
I would expect, there's a lot of old stuff there. I could see it being flipped. Benning Road's probably a 50-50 spot now. They've had about half of it renovated. I mean, parts of D.C. that just were nothing. Suddenly you go through and like, wow. And so there is some of that near RFK now. You got to get RFK down too. Here's one of the other problems. Tourism, and I'm a tour guide in town, so I see this. We've had a decent spring tour season, but what we see in the summer coming is zip.
Oh, really?
Foreign travelers They come all the time, nothing. I mean, and those revenues are what fund things like tearing down RFK, and that's why it's taken so long for RFK to come down because of the pandemic.
Right.
You know, I didn't tour for 18 months. I mean, the money wasn't there. So they've got to hurry up and get that done because they're talking still about another year and a half or so. Nah, just come on, man. Get some cranes and knock it down. You can't wait that long. But the revenues have been hit by things like tourism.
Mm-hmm.
Rick, thanks as always for the time. That's Rick Snider from Rick Snider's Washington and Yardbarker. Thanks again.
Thank you, buddy.
All right. Thanks, guys. See you.
All right, pal.
Yep. Don't forget, scheduled to join us coming up at 8:25 is Nick Dowd from the Washington Capitals. Coming up next, we'll get into some high-profile events and experiences that are not delivering on their promises. We'll do that next on The Fan.